to the best family on YouTube. Well, that is absolutely our opinion here at Carrier Berry because they're our very special, which means you are our very special EDC family. I'm your host, Prophet, and with me, as always, is our dear professor. And we thank you for joining us for yet another EDC video today. Now, as you can most likely see, we have an item that has not been opened yet. So this is going to be part 2 of our new series, right? Of our first impression and unboxing here at Carrier Berry. We also play a new version of our mini game. It's kind of like our full Carrier Berry game, but instead of us burying this in the backyard if it doesn't meet our initial cut, what we're going to do is bury it in a drawer, and then we can either figure out later what we'll do, either a giveaway, a charitable thing. We'll figure that out together, EDC family. In fact, we'd love to hear your opinions on if a first impression doesn't make it through the first impression minigame, what we should do with it. We'd love to hear from you. Now, as you may know, the reason that we're doing these unboxings and first impressions is to bring more content to you, our subscribers, and to the EDC family. Because let's face it, up until now, we've been just seeing a lot of stuff that I have purchased for my personal collection, or the professor has purchased for his personal collection. So we decided to go on to all the nice sites out there and buy 5 or 6 knives from each of them. This in particular is one from Amazon. This little guy is a Demko Knives AD-20.5 Shark-Lock knife, okay? It has what they call their shark foot blade, and it is stone washed, and it is brand new, and I have not opened it, and I have not ever held one of these Demko Shark-Lock products. Now, from what I was reading about this knife when we purchased it off of Amazon, by the way, our purchase price for this was $155 USD, but of course there's a lot of different options on the Demko 20.5s that we'll talk a little bit about later. But for now, what you should know is otherwise being that it has what they call their shark foot. It's using AUS 10A steel, I believe, and I'll double check that again when we get her open. And it also has a different scale or handle composition material. It's called Grivery. Now, Grivery is a semi-crystalline polyamide. I think you say it polyamide, right? And basically what that is, it's a material that has an aromatic content that's used to make very technical components, okay? Now, the trade name for it is EMS-Grivery's family of polyamides. Now, Grivery has a lot of really cool benefits, which is why they're starting to use it in knife handles. It has a very good surface quality. It really does a great job with keeping stiffness and keeping that strength. It really has great dimensional stability. It also has a very low moisture absorption, and it has a chemical resistance, which makes it really darn cool, right? And it can be efficiently produced, which is all pretty darn cool if you ask me. Now, obviously, with all these new polyamides, it really kind of takes a new look at what's happening in the knife world. And it just shows with the Demkos how they can really start pushing the limits to getting us some of those really cool new materials, right? For those of you that aren't really sure what a polyamide is, from what I understand, it's obviously a synthetic material. And I believe it was patented by actually DuPont back in the 1930s. And it is also known as a nylon type product. Now, a really cool thing to think about is this has kind of taken shape from the 1930s, where they produced ladies' stockings with it, and then on to other nylon products, making more and more things till we get these really cool polyamides that can eventually find their way into a knife, and they can have some really neat things that they can give us, being lightweight, giving us different colors. It's pretty darn cool. So I'm excited to kind of feel this. This will be my first polyamide, my first Grivery handle that I've touched, and I'm really looking forward to taking a peek at that, actually. So without further ado, I think we should talk a little bit about how the mini game will work today. What we'll do is we're going to open this EDC item in a moment, and while I get accustomed to it and get a feel for what I like or don't like, all the while, the cameras are running, right? So you're going to kind of see me fumble around sometimes like our last unboxing, but that's okay. We want this to be organic. We are still going to have our 3 sections after our opening segment here, of course, which is our Knowledge is King. That will be followed by the professor's particulars, which is basically about the stats. Finally, we will do a brief comparison. We're not going to do full loaded into any of these categories because we want this to be a more quicker, more fluid way to get you some new content. Then, when that's all finished, we are still going to play our mini Carrier Berry game. And we still are going to go through our needs and our nails, which, as you may know, are our positives and negatives that we attribute to each piece. But instead of doing 4 or 5, then 5, and then doing a tiebreaker, what we're going to do is we are going to do what I like 3 things about it, then what I dislike 3 things about it, all initial impressions, obviously, and then we will have a tiebreaker. If I don't feel like I want to waste your time and carry the item, if it's not for me, we are still going to bury it, but instead of burying it in the coffin like we normally would and bury it in the backyard and doing our 21 flipper salute, what we're going to do is bury it in a drawer until you, our EDC family, and us figure out the best way to handle this, whether that be giveaways, whether that would be for some charitable contributions, or one of those type of things. We want to leave things for the full review after all, right? Well, that's kind of what we do. We like to do full reviews. That's where our passion is. So what we'll do is this revised game will just kind of be, like we said, first impressions. If it does make it and it is need strong and we decide that we are going to do a full review on it, we will then carry the product, whether it's the knife or another part of EDC gear, it doesn't really matter. Whatever it is, we'll carry it, we'll test it, we'll put it to use for a minimum of 30 days. Then we will sit back down, rewrite the script, and do the full Carrier Berry game with the full Knowledge is King, Professor's Particulars, and of course the comparisons before getting into our full game, which will determine our recommendation and the fate of the item. Now, if you need a little bit more, or if you're new to the channel, we recently redid our How This Channel Works video. It is now labeled video number 20. Now, typically when we do this opening here, we talk a little bit about the item's name. This is named the Demko Knives AD-20.5 Shark-Lock, with obviously the shark's foot. Blade shape, which is super cool. I dig it. You really can't go wrong naming a type of knife, type of lock after a shark. It's really ingenious. Normally we'd go a lot further into this a little bit, but what we're going to do instead of doing that is we're just going to say, I think that the whole shark theme is pretty darn cool, and taking a sheep's foot style blade and naming it a shark's foot, I absolutely love that. It kind of shows what type of people the Demkos are. I will give you a disclosure. If you hear a bulldog snoring in the background, that's just our little buddy Chaos, and he just ate a really nice meal, and he is on his little bed that we have in our recording studio because he does not want to be alone because we have bad weather outside, and that's quite all right with me. But if you hear a snoring, just know that's our little buddy Chaos. Normally, folks, we would then now call out our Professor's Portal, which would give you, our viewers, a way to move on to the actual Carry or Bury game. Since there is no Professor's Portal here today, it'd probably be a great time for us to check in with the Carry or Bury's dear old granny, right? I think you've all grown to love those sayings. And thinking about this particular knife today, thinking about the Demkos, thinking about the product that we have here on the table that we're about to open together, I think if she were here, she would say something maybe about hard work, or maybe dedication, ingenuity, engineering. I don't know, folks, but you know what? I think she actually would be talking about family, specifically brotherhood, sisterhood, that type of family, right? So because when you think about Demko, what comes to my mind is the Demko brothers right now. Even one, not by blood, is thought of a Demko brother in my mind at least, and I'm sure it is to them as well. I digress. So a little bit of personal note on this. I have a lot of brothers. I have a couple sisters. But one person in particular whom you all have heard of at least is a man called Cuz, who was thought to be a cousin to me when I was growing up. Later, we found out that he was actually not related to us by blood. And although that caused some issues in the family, today he is more of, actually, you know what? I am proud to call him my brother, my friend, my ally. So I do believe that one of the Demko brothers, although isn't by blood, they feel the same way about, right? So Granny may have said this in the past, and I might not have quite understood her. Well, maybe until right now. I think she said something like, "Prophet, my dear, you may think that your brothers are as useful as a beloved straw hat on a donkey. If you put your beloved straw hat on a donkey, you're actually giving that donkey something that means something to you. So that is no longer just a donkey, it's an adorable donkey whom you've gifted your straw hat to. That donkey is now family." If you follow this channel, you know that Granny doesn't always make sense. However, there's always a deeper meaning to her sayings. Family should always look good in your eyes, if that makes any sense, even if that member may not be full blood, but you've given that person a part of you. They are family. You trust them. Well, the Demkos sure believe that. In fact, instead of selling out for a large payday after the sale of Cold Steel, Andrew Demko, who has brought us crazy engineering of locking up folding knives for many, many years, came to the realization that he wanted to go out on his own, if you will. So he took a chance. His brother John, and maybe not blood brother, but fellow knife maker and very, very close friend Mike Wallace, they started Demko Knives, and they started their own journey. Well, today, Demko has very much outgrown their shadow and their link to Cold Steel, and they've given us kind of a new breed of knives, right? A dependable breed, a fidgety breed. And they still have that crazy strong lockup that Demko knives are known for. Now, we could keep going on and on. This is Knowledge is King section, but again, this is the mini section, right? So we could talk about how since Andrew made his first chisel back in 1988, he has been on pace to become one of the world's top folding and EDC knife engineers. We could talk about his contributions to Cold Steel, his invention of the triad lock, the scorpion lock, or the Shark-Lock, right? Which we're about to see. Which actually, since we're in Knowledge is King, that's going to bring me to a quick pocket check. What am I thinking? EDC family, today I carried my Grimsmo Norseman because we're about to do our full-length review on this knife. Had that knife with me today. I also always carry this little sack around, right? I've got my little pen, which I'm going to be using here because I need to remember what my positives and negatives are. And for my little knife, I use this wonderful little Ohio River Jack from C. Reisner Knives. And it has a great walk and talk, does everything I needed to do. And this wonderful little slip that I also got from C. Reisner. My flashlight today, I was doing car stuff today with a friend, and so I needed to utilize a little bit more than just a light, but obviously this O-Light usually finds its way into my pocket. I absolutely love the Arcfield Pro. Cuz just picked up a new Pro today with the Dragon logo. Looks awesome. I can't wait to actually do a review on these, but the reason we're doing this in Knowledge is King is this is another EDC of mine. This is my pocket Bible. Enough going over that stuff. I think that was enough knowledge today, right, folks? We've really turned this into a full video, and again, Professor is not going to like it. Let's open a knife. Again, we've got the Demko AD-20. Oh gosh, they really locked these up. Oh my, oh, are you kidding me? Okay, so it looks like this is just one of those plastic things that comes off. What do we got? Looks like we got a Shark-Lock sticker. That's pretty cool. It's always nice to have stickers. I absolutely love stickers. It looks like we've got another pocket clip, maybe a left-handed pocket clip possibly. I don't see any more screws, so I don't think it's an extra one. I believe it might be to make the knife ambidextrous. We got some plastic. There's no tape on anything. Sometimes I like that, sometimes it worries me. Let's kind of put this in here for now and put this away for a second. All right, let's take a look. Folks, this is my first time playing with a Shark-Lock. I wanted one for a long time. They were very hard to get when they first came out. And now we've obviously seen the AD-20.5 versions. And now we see the non-US made. Oh, wow, that came right. Oh, that's why people like this. Okay, so you really got to actually, and that's why it does have some jimping here, it looks like. Let me grab my little tool. Yeah, it's got some really good jimping here. I'll try to get the camera to pick this up here. Right here. Man, it's hard to do this under the camera. All right, that's cool. I'm a sucker for shark's foot blades. That's pretty cool. There is a little Demko signature on the blade, very small. AUS 10A from Taiwan. If you want to learn more about AUS 10A or any other steels, our channel's go-to is Dr. Steel, Dr. Laren Thomas of KnifeSteelNerds.com. He will be in our description. Now, we don't get anything. I don't even think he knows we exist, but we trust him. I've read and have a lot of his books, including Knife Engineering. Man, that is snappy. Wow. So actually, wait a minute. So let's quick look at this. So this pocket clip, I'm betting, yeah, okay. So it's just to make it a left-handed knife because you do have the thumb studs on both sides. The locking mechanism is on the spine of the knife. So if you are left-handed, you can move the pocket clip over to this side. It looks like it'll always be a tip-up carry, but that's normal. So that's actually the good way to do it. Let's see here. I'm gonna grab my little notebook here and my little guy here, and that's kind of sharp. Amazon, sharp out of Amazon. Again, we paid $155 on Amazon for this version. The Demkos make a lot of versions of these knives, so if you're seeing a lot of price fluctuations, don't freak out. And this is another one of those ones where you got to really watch out for knife pirates. Okay, that's something I don't know if I like. We're going to get into that in a minute. So we are on the Professor's Particulars now. So welcome to the Professor's Particulars, where we give you the knife stats, right? So let's weigh this guy up. So we have the scale on EDC family. Let's pop the Demko on there. Looks like we're right at just over 3.5 ounces. And on the channel, we always like to see an inch of usable knife per ounce. That's kind of our go-to here. So let's take a peek at that. Grab our handy dandy little ruler here. And let's take a, actually, no, we're not going to use the ruler. We're going to use this one. There we go. So let's take a peek here. So depending on, so we're definitely under 3 inches here. Okay. So we'll try to get both cameras on that. I've got it all the way down where the knife's going to meet. If you get a police officer or someone like that who's measuring the knife, this is kind of how they're going to try to do it. We're definitely under 3 inches of usable blade. I mean, not without checking out the full geometry on it. I'd say we're right about 2 3/4 inches. So we are under 3 inches, about 2 3/4 of usable blade, which is not bad. 3.5 ounces it's not a terrible thing, but it is a little heavier than I expected for the usable blade. Now that could be for a lot of things, and we'll kind of dive into that in a little bit. Or maybe we'll dive into it later, or maybe we won't, right? I keep forgetting we're on the mini games, right? So we've got that portion. So we figured out the blade, we figured out the blade steel, we figured out the weight. Let's see what type, excuse me, EDC family. Let's see what we got for blade thickness. We've got our handy dandy caliper out. We are at about 127 thou on the blade spine. Maybe 126 thou, depending on where you grab it. Just behind the edge, though, let's see if we can grab that. It gets pretty darn thin here. It's hard to, I'm not going to be able to get you a perfect behind the edge on this one. So what I will say, though, is it's got a really nice kind of looks like just a normal flat grind after the spine here. I don't feel any, well, it's hard to say. If this knife makes it through our mini game, I will say I'll have a lot more specs on this. This is really just kind of first impression. Let's see if I can left hand this guy. Oh yeah. And Spidey flick? Ooh, Spidey flick? Kinda. I can kind of get it in that hole. What if I use the backspace? Much easier with the backspacer. She really does kind of fly. I really dig that. So that's actually going to do it for Professor's Particulars, since this is just a first impression. Which then brings us to our comparison portion of the video. Well, so for something like this, we are going to look at a really common knife, which is our Rat 1 here. Let's clean Mr. Rat 1 up, make him look nice and purty, or try to. I just got fingerprints all over stuff, folks. You'll have to forgive us. We really do use these things. So as you can see, next to our Rat 1, it is a much, much smaller knife. So it really is. It's kind of night and day difference. And then with a liner lock knife like the Rat 1, you can kind of see the thinness here on the handles. Actually, let's quickly go back to them stats for 1 second. Let me get you we are 391 thousandths and a half. So for our brothers and sisters overseas, we are looking at 9.9 millimeters roughly. And again, that blade spine in millimeters is about 3.35. Just so we kind of have it for all of our lovely EDC family members who didn't get stuck on the imperial system. I digress. Okay, so we take a look at that one. Let's look at an actual cold steel knife made by the Demko gentleman, Mr. Andrew Demko. This is the AD-15 with the Scorpion lock. Really interesting lock. We won't go too much into that, but this is a very heavy-duty lock. And let's take a peek. Now, the AD-15 is a very beefy knife. And I would probably bet, and I haven't held an 80-20 normal one yet, but I would bet that the 15 is going to beat it anyway. This is a very beefy knife. I don't have any upgrades on this one, but there are a lot of different upgrades you can do. Very comfortable in the hand. It's a workhorse of a knife, but as you can see, it dwarfs this guy again. So speaking of dwarfing, let's look at a cold steel product, right? Let's take a look at this big old Voyager. Huh? Not bad. This was made by the same company that Andrew was designing for, and I'm not sure if he had something to do with this or not. It very well could have happened. I'll find more about that. Gotta rock down on. All right, folks. And one more, as our dear professor calls this one, the paramilitary 3 or para 3. This is our PM3. We'll have to make sure he stays on that correctly. Thank you to one of our YouTube subscribers or commenters to point that out. When the video released, our lovely professor had named this one wrong. That's okay. And I probably actually said something wrong about it too. That's kind of how things work around here, right? I mean, we are definitely not Dr. Laren Thomas around here. We just have a little bit too much time. Some of you are a lot more qualified than we are. But we've been doing this for a bit, right? So the PM3 is going to definitely be smaller, but not by a ton. You are actually kind of looking at the Demko AD-20.5 is going to have a bigger handle area. Thickness is going to be a little bit thinner on this guy over the Spyderco, but not by much. Obviously, you have a much different blade shape. But the reality of it is you're really getting a very similar size knife. It's more of a smaller EDC knife. There you have it. Well, I think that's all we're comparing with today for our comparisons, EDC family. Let's move right into our mini game, right? So how the mini game works is we are going to talk about 3 things that I like about it, if there are 3. 3 things that I don't like on the first impressions, if there are 3. And then guess what we will do? If it's tied, we will have a tiebreaker. And yes, I get it. We usually do. I know that's the joke. We love it. This is for your entertainment, right? Let's not look too hard into this thing. So I've had some time playing around with this, and now you should be hearing your first pocket noise or need noise. And what is that going to be? I'm actually going to have to call this one action. So we are going to write that down because obviously this isn't something we pre-recorded. So let me make a little bit of room on the side. EDC family, forgive me. So needs, okay, 1 action. I love the action. It feels really good. Okay. 2, let's see here. First impressions. You know, it is. I know this one's kind of a cheesy one. I really do. But I actually really like, I really do. I really like the Shark-Lock so far. So I don't know if you can put that in action, but we're going to call it, you know what? Yeah, we're going to call it the locking mechanism. Very, very cool. And, you know, then we're actually going to move right into it. Because of the locking mechanism, I actually really enjoy that this is fully ambidextrous. So we have full ambi, especially with them giving you the extra clip, okay? That's really, really nice of them. And that's definitely something that we're going to do for our list. So we got to 3 pretty quickly there. Fully ambidextrous. Okay, we've got some needs, folks. Let's talk and see if there are any nails. I'm going to be honest, I have bigger hands. We talk about this a lot. I do not like this choil area here on the knife. It is, for me, actually, I can even feel my finger resting up against the blade right there. So if I were to choke up on this knife, I think either don't do a choil or do the choil correctly. So we're going to say choil is very small. Absolutely 100% is going to be one thing that I don't like about it. All right, let's see here, EDC family. What don't I like about you? You know what? Honestly, folks, I think that for as much love and hype this knife is getting, I think they could have done the clip differently. I actually don't like the clip. I like that it's ambidextrous. That part I like. What I don't like is that it is definitely not going to be a knife that's hiding. And even if you can see that in your pocket or somebody sees that, it's kind of ugly what is hanging out there. And I get it's probably for strength and it's probably for stability, but I'm telling you, I don't even like the ramping on this thing. There's no smoothness on the handle here where it would actually go into the pocket. So I can see this getting stuck, tearing. We're going to go with pocket clip. That's not that it's, we're not thinking the ambidextrous on the nails part here, right? But we're going to say, that's not something I'm liking right now. Now, remember, these things can change over time. I may end up loving that, right? I really may. But we'll have to see. And I think those of you who know me know the third thing coming. For $155 for a knife that's so popular right now, having the AUS 10A blade steel, I'm not a huge fan of that. If it was a USA knife made here, you know, in the USA, I say that's probably makes a little bit more sense, especially with OSHA and a lot of the rules that we have here. But I'm just not a big fan for that type of money. I mean, if this was $100, $110 even, $119 even, I'd say that's fine. But I'm just, for $155, I'm just not a huge fan of it being AUS 10A. That's me, I know, but remember, this is our opinion, our first impressions. And wouldn't you know it, EDC family, we got to 3 and 3. Who would have ever thought that Prophet would somehow extend talking on camera? It's very weird. Let's do our recap like we normally do, right? Forgive me, EDC family. Our needs on the AD-20.5 Shark-Lock are the action. Number 2, the darn locking mechanism. It's fidgety, it's fun. My gosh, I really like it. That works for me. I also love that because of this, because of the dual thumb studs, because of the blade opening, because the pocket clip can be moved over, you've got a fully ambidextrous knife. I know there's not a boatload of lefties out there, But I love when there is something that can work for you, because I couldn't even imagine how frustrating it would be to want something and not be able to carry it comfortably. So that's definitely a need. Nails. I do not like the weird small finger choil here. In fact, when I put my finger on that choil, which that's what it's made for, I actually am having the knife edge in my finger. Dangerous, don't like it. Either have it bigger or deal with it. Either make it bigger or make it go away. As much as I love the ambidextrous pocket clip, what I don't love is that it is ugly. It's going to be coming out of your pocket about that much and even showing part of the blade. And what you're going to be seeing is just a weird bunch of steel. I'm not a huge fan of that. Just kind of not for me. So, EDC family, even though this was supposed to be a quick video and a mini game and more off the cuff for you, right? I've kind of drawn this one out again. And Professor is not going to like it, A. But B, I should probably quit doing this, right? Like the slowing things down. I call it building up suspense. You may call it wasting your time. And that's something I don't want to do. So we've opened the knife. I've given you some impressions of it. I've given you 3 needs, 3 nails. Again, my personal 100% off the cuff reactions to it as opening it for the first time. Now, do we now say that this knife gets buried? Do we throw a nail at it and say no? Or do we carry it? Well, I'm going to give it a carry. Go ahead and throw a need up, Professor. Throw that pocket up. Why, you ask? Well, I can go with a lot of things. I can go with the Demko brothers. I feel like they've done so much in the knife world that I should give this a fair shot. I could go with how thin it is, right? But I don't know if that's a good or bad thing right now. What I will go with is popularity. With the original knives and the customs they made, with the Shark-Lock being something that other engineers and companies have now found their muse on and are, doing their best to continue this. This is good for the industry. Whenever you find a new locking mechanism or a new way to be able to get to your knife, it not only helps people that may not be able to use traditional knives the traditional way, but it also opens up new possibilities for further engineering, which I'm a big fan of. So is Professor. So we're going with popularity. We're going with that this knife can make a muse to other engineers and other companies. And honestly, I just wouldn't feel right not giving this one time to carry it and give it a full review. And maybe this one won't be for me in the end. Maybe I need a little bit larger one, right? But regardless, you will see this knife again on the channel, folks. So we will have a full Carrier Bury game in the future after carrying and using the AD-20.5 in the real world. And there'll be a lot of other fun stuff on Knowledge is King. I know that. Oh, shoot. Real quick, EDC family. What am I thinking? We have been able to send out some of our cool stuff to folks here, subscribers. We can either send you a blank little guy here, a blank. This one's very dirty, forgive me. We could send you a blank microfiber that doesn't have our actual signatures on it, or we can really sign under the fake signatures like this here, and we would be happy to do that. We've sent out a bunch of these over the week. I'm hopefully happy, or people are hopefully happy with them. We also have some new lanyards. So what are we charging for these? We're not. We want the channel to grow. We want EDC people to be prepared. And we thought lanyards would be fun. So if you would like a lanyard, we will mail you one, no charge to you. Just send us an email at carrierbury@gmail.com. And if you want, we can also sign said lanyard, and it will look something like this. I get that that's not really Chaos's signature. I do get that. But, hey, that's what we're for. We have a big surprise coming up. It's going to be hopefully right after the Grimsbow knife. What is it? I don't know. You folks know anything about John Wick? Enough profit about our knife today and all other knives or gear or items that we have had or eventually have on our channel, on the compound, in our pockets. Remember, folks, we're YouTubers. We are not lawyers. Should you ever get legal advice from a YouTuber, I would then go speak to a psychiatrist. You should get professional advice from professionals, legal people, lawyers, other folks. But seriously, please look into and know about your local knife laws. You don't always have to hire a lawyer for that, right? Not sure how? Well, it doesn't hurt. You can visit, and if possible, you can also support AKTI, which is the American Knife and Tool Institute. They are fantastic, and they're out there on the front lines helping us keep our freedoms and our rights. There are other great people out there helping try to keep our rights with knives, and honestly, this isn't just one of them. And honestly, I don't really care who you go to, but you should learn more, and you should care about your rights. Now, unless your hands or your fingers aren't stuck in ice cream or sugar or wax or in carbonite, you should be able to find us online. Now, remember, we are working on getting better at social media. I promise you, folks, it is a bunch of old people in the house that really haven't got into it. But with the help of our users and the help of you, our EDC family, we are slowly getting better and putting content on and answering questions, and we're really enjoying it. So help us continue to grow, not just on YouTube, but on all social media platforms. How do you find us? Just look for @Carry or Bury or Carry or Bury. We'd love to see what's in your pocket. We'd love to see what you're saving up to buy. We'd love to hear what you want reviewed. We'd love to hear how we should handle the mini game if the knife doesn't become need strong and it needs to be buried. We'd love to hear from you regardless. Don't forget to click subscribe and like for more content. With your help, this channel and you, our EDC family, can become the most prepared family on YouTube and beyond, right? I mean, that's the cool thing. So until next time, EDC family, keep those blades sharp, keep those flashlights charged, and honestly, if you're me, you know this already. Keep those band-aids close. Remember, folks, you are the very best tool in your EDC loadout. God bless you. Thank you. We'll see you next week.